So I wanted to show you how I have been doing my quilted hexagons. So I've started with a couple of stacks of hexagons that have been pre-cut from, they're all 1940s and 1950s fabrics. Some of them are feedsacks. So the larger ones are 3-inch hexagons, and you measure them like you can see here from one side. You measure the side along the side rather than from edge to edge. So you can see this one here is supposed to be 2-inch, but it's a little bit shy, So it's about 1 and 3/4 inch. So I've got my stack of 3-inch guys, and then I've got my stack of 2-inch. I'll refer to them as my 2-inch guys. And these again are all my favorite fabrics. Now here I'm taking the smaller ones, the 2-inch guys, 2-inch hexagons, and I've got a batting that has an adhesive on one side. It's like an iron-on interfacing batting. So I've put my hexies, my little guys, down on the glue side, and I'm just ironing them on. So essentially I'm attaching the batting with the front so that when I'm stitching them together, I only have 2 layers. And then once I've glued or ironed them all down, then I can snip them out. So sometimes I will iron them so that they're right butted up against each other, but I worry about them shifting a little bit and getting overlapped. So I usually just leave a little gap between each of them to eliminate as much of the wastage as I can, try and use up the most of my materials efficiently. And this is a pretty easy task. I've got my good sewing scissors or fabric scissors, and I just usually do this in front of the TV, or on this day I was out on the back deck in the sunshine snipping out all of my 2-inch hexagons. So again, these are on interfacing. So once I have all of my 2-inch hexagons cut out, so they're all backed now with the interfacing or the batting. It is a little bit thicker than just a standard interfacing. I love to just but lay these all out together, just to have a look at all the fabrics. And I'll just show you when I was playing around with different layouts how everything looks all together, all the different fabrics together. That was just for fun. So then what I do is take one of the 3-inch hexagons. Now this one is just a fabric. It's not glued to anything or fastened to a batting. But then I've got my 2-inch one that is fastened to the batting through ironing. So now I'm going to match them up. And actually when I say match, I don't actually mean match, because I look for the biggest contrast that I can get, so that the fabrics, I want it to be bold and I guess a little bit eclectic. So when I'm matching up my 3-inch hexie, like this one here, then I'm looking for one that has a big contrast, the 2-inch one to match it up with. So you can see here this lovely blue, well, I guess you couldn't really see that one. This white one here, so I want like a nice bold print to go with that. And this blue and red one, then a smaller print floral to go with that one. So I usually go through and do all of the matching so that I just have one big stack then all ready to sew. So again, every 3-inch hexagon is matched up with a 2-inch double layer with the iron-on interfacing hexagon. So each pair then I will sew together. So to sew them together, I flip the 3-inch to, basically I'm putting them wrong sides together. So the right side is facing down to the counter, and then I center it as well as I can. And then you fold in each side of the 3-inch hexagon. So you fold it once to the edge and then another time over to create a seam. And I've been using these clips, which I really like. They're super easy to take off and on, and I'm really good at poking myself with pins, so this prevents the poking. So again, you fold down once to the edge of the 2-inch hexagon, and then fold it down again the same amount, and then give it a little clip on the corner. So 1 fold, 2 folds, and clip. And then the last one, 1 fold, 2nd fold, and clip, and then I just adjust that other clip there to include, and this creates a really beautiful, almost like a mitered seam on each of those edges. And then I grab my embroidery thread. So I have a load of embroidery thread that I found at a thrift store actually, and so I get a contrasting color. Again, I'm going for a high contrast here, and I've threaded my needle with this bright yellow embroidery thread. And I'm just going to poke through one layer so that my knot at the end of the thread, I can just tuck it under the fold there, so it's completely hidden. And now I'm just going to hand stitch all the way around to fasten the folded 3-inch hexagon to the pre-batted, pre-filled 2-inch hexagon. So I'm just doing almost like a basting stitch or a running stitch. I want my stitches to be big and noticeable. I also want to try, if I can, to stitch into each corner so that I don't get any weird flaps coming up. So when I do the folding, there's an exposed corner each time, and so I try to fasten that corner down. And there's my stitches on the other side. I'm not the greatest at stitching, but I love doing it. And generally my stitches on this side are much more visible than the ones on the other side. So I'm not really worried about the stitches on the back, more so thinking about how these ones look on the front. So I'm just going all the way around the hexagon, sewing about maybe 1/8 of an inch, between a 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch from the inner edge. And there are my back stitches again. They're not super straight, but the ones on the front are pretty solid. And again, trying to catch that corner there so that it doesn't, with laundry washes and stuff, it doesn't start folding up and flapping up. And so I'm going, again, the entire way around this hexagon with my bright colored thread, just in and out and in and out. Again, this is something that I can do in front of the TV, just like little glances down, and I can still follow the show or the movie that we're watching. And this is actually really helpful, the bright yellow thread on the dark navy fabric, because it's really visible. I can really see where my stitches are. So through that little corner where my fold was, there we go, fastening that down nice and securely, and then continuing around. And once I finish the stitches, I can take the clips off, or I can just leave them all on until I've completed the entire way around the hexagon here. So it just takes maybe 3 or 4 minutes to go around the entire hexagon with my, I'm sure that if I was more of a perfectionist, that I would be much more careful with how the stitches looked on the back. But from this side, yeah, they're okay. From this side, they look pretty good. And that high contrast, again, I love that. I absolutely love that. So I'm not trying to match anything here. I'm doing contrast with the smaller hexagon and the larger hexagon and with my thread. So I'm coming around to the end here. I think it's the next side. No, one more side. Moving that clip up so that I can see where that little fold is, a little miter edge. Making sure I tack that little corner down. Perfect. You can see that this is a really great little project to take with you. It's really portable. You can do this in the car. I actually don't do this in the car because I get motion sick pretty badly if I'm not looking out the window. But I could see doing this on an airplane or some sort of road trip because it's super portable. I'll show you my takeaway kit, my little kit that I bring along with me. So here I am almost to the end now, back to where I started, and just doing my last couple of stitches. And what I'm going to do at the end is go through only the one layer. So you see I'm poking it through just the 2-inch hexagon layer and not coming all the way through to the navy. So I'm going to poke my needle through there. Yeah, and didn't catch the navy. And pulling that thread nice and taut. And then I'm going to tie 3 knots. I don't know why, but 3 knots. And the way that I can tie them so that they're really nice and snug up against the fabric is to make a loop, and then I put my needle inside the loop, and then I tug the free thread, and I can sort of snug that right up with the fabric. So again, I'm going to do it 3 times. So make my loop, and then put my needle into the loop, and like poke the needle into where my knot is going to be. And then when I pull the end of the thread, I can snug that knot right down into the fabric. So needle through the loop and place it down into where my knot's going to be, and then pull that extra thread. Whoops. Pull that extra thread nice and tight. And there we go. And pull that end nice and tight, and then the knot goes right underneath there. And then I give it a little snip, and I can just tuck that edge underneath. I usually use the needle to poke that edge underneath. I think maybe a little crochet hook or something might be easier, but I just use the edge of the needle. And remember, I've got 3 knots there in that thread, so it's not going to come loose. And then I can take my clips off, and there's my finished hexagon, all already quilted, right? Because I've got the batting in between. So you can see that I've been playing around with these fabrics, lots of contrast and also contrasting threads. And so then when I attach them all together, they will have lots and lots of pattern, contrast, and on the backs, it'll be an entirely new type of quilt. So more, I guess, larger pieces of these fabrics. And you can see that the stitching that I did also makes a hexagon shape. So it's almost like 2 quilts in one, because the other side will have just a completely different looking design. Still hexagons though. So this is what I bring with me when I'm out and about. I've got a variety of embroidery thread, and I've got my little clippies and my fabric scissors, and then all of my pre-matched hexagons. So pretty small little kit. Oh, I've got my needle too, and a needle threader. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be posting another video soon of what my quilt looks like once I've attached all of the hexagons to each other.